From Alabama to Wyoming, America's legal system is basically a nationwide comedy routine, written by lawyers. Sure, half the ridiculous laws you see online are total nonsense, but the other half are somehow real, like outlawing drunkenness in Alaska to bans on fortune-telling in Pennsylvania and the illegal seduction of women in South Carolina. These are some of the weirdest laws in America's books. Number 50, don't steal waste kitchen grease in North Carolina. America is the land of opportunity and, apparently, land of deep-fried crime. Every year, over $75 million worth of used cooking oil vanishes into the night. North Carolina had enough and passed a law in 2013 to stop grease swiping. In 2019 alone, 21 grease bandits were indicted. Steal less than $1,000 worth, it's a slap on the wrist. But cross that line, and it's a Class H felony. Up to 39 months behind bars for a crime that smells like French fries. Why steal kitchen grease? Simple. It's the gold rush of the deep fryer. It can be used to make renewable diesel fuel. Entire crews get hired just to steal it. It's the weirdest and lamest organized crime spree ever. So, after flipping fryer oil on the black market, maybe ditch the body armor, because New Jersey takes fashion crimes very seriously. Number 49. Don't commit a crime in New Jersey wearing a bulletproof vest. MatPack PSA, don't commit crimes. But if you commit a crime in New Jersey while rocking a bulletproof vest, congrats. You've just unlocked bonus crime mode. If it's a first-degree felony, that vest earns you a shiny second-degree charge for accessorizing like a SWAT wannabe. Anything less, it's a third-degree felony. That means up to 5 years in prison or a $15,000 fine. The reasoning, wearing body armor made criminals harder to stop once law enforcement showed up. Presumably, the fashion police will be in tow. If you think that's wild, this next state is a whole different kind of wild. Number 48. In Alabama, bears can't get into the ring. Not legally, anyway. Well, at least not at human-hosted events. Whatever they do off the clock, that's between them and Mother Nature. Hosting a bear wrestling event, working at one, training a bear for a comeback Rocky Montage style, that's a Class B misdemeanor. 1 year in jail or $5,000 in fines. Bear wrestling was very popular back in the 1800s, which tracks when you remember that half the population was high on opium. Thankfully, Alabama banned this horrendous practice in 1996. Of course, you can also be cruel to animals in much subtler, weirder ways. Number 47, one of Ohio's strangest laws got on the books all the way back in 2020. The law says you can't dye or otherwise color rabbits, chicks, or ducklings, or sell or raffle them off. Why? A black market for Easter-themed raves? It's actually about animal welfare. The dyeing process can stress the animals. Imagine getting dunked in neon pink against your will. And, the chemicals can be harmful. First offense, a 4th-degree misdemeanor, $250 fine. Do it again and it jumps to 3rd degree with a $500 fine. Just don't turn your bunny into a Skittle. But maybe you can help protect animals in the next state instead. Number 46. Close the gate behind you in Wyoming or get fined. Imagine you're hiking through Wyoming's backcountry. Mountains, fresh air, the kind of view your therapist recommends after hearing about your screen time. You open a little wooden gate on the trail, step through, and keep walking. Oops, you forgot to close it, and you just committed a misdemeanor. Better stump up $750, all for being captivated by nature. Wyoming is ranch country. Most gates are there for a reason, like keeping horses or cattle in. If you leave that gate open, some rancher has to run around those Purple Mountains' majesty like an extra from Yellowstone. So be polite and close the door. And speaking of politeness, number 45. In West Virginia, cursing in public or getting drunk can result in a fine. The damage? $1. It's less law enforcement and more statewide swear jar. It's $1 per offense, so if you're on a roll and making a sailor blush, you could be out $50 before you even finish your rant. This law makes sense. West Virginia is one of the most religious states in the US, and the church doesn't like it when you drop F-bombs. What, are they uptight or something? Not that you need to be a very religious state to ban some forms of cursing. Number 44. Anyone over the age of 16 can't swear at sports games in Massachusetts. At a game in Massachusetts, don't cuss out the players or officials. If you want to curse out the guy in the seat next to you, be my guest. Violating this law results in a fine of up to $50. It's unclear if it's enforced. If it were, Massachusetts would have to fine the entire city of Boston. The fact that lawmakers had to specifically ban threats and curses towards sports players tracks perfectly with Massachusetts' brand. I'm starting to think American politicians really hate hearing F-bombs, or seeing them. Because number 43, obscene stickers and displays are banned in Mississippi. Mississippi is the most religious state in the country. Half the population calls themselves highly devout, which means the law's just as holy and rubber-stamped by the guy upstairs. Got an edgy, obscene sticker on your car? Banned. Swear words, suggestive jokes, anything remotely spicy, all gone. Violations can earn you a small fine, even a quick trip behind bars, and definitely a stern look from Jesus. But don't stress too much. The law is almost never enforced, as if God himself were smiting bad legislation. But on the subject of banned, obscene things, number 42, stink bombs, illegal in Maryland. Making, selling, or trading them, it's all banned. The law covers any liquid, gaseous, or substance producing a noxious, nauseating, sickening, irritating, or offensive odor. Fancy wording for it stinks. They've been used from harmless pranks to riot control, but setting one off in Maryland will get you a fine of $500 to $500, plus disgusted looks from everyone around you. You might get those same looks and a fine in this next state, just for drinking. Number 41. Getting buzzed in Alaska? Keep it classy, or at least vertical. Being visibly hammered in a bar is actually a crime up there. Bartenders can't pretend not to notice. Serve someone who's clearly drunk and they can get charged too. No tip will save you. Alaska's got a serious alcohol problem. There's lots of binge drinking. The police even run sting ops. Undercover cops rounded up about 20 smashed patrons and filed charges against the bartenders. How do they tell you're drunk? Not just off-key journey, falling down, can't count your cash, vomiting, and the classic, "What? I only had a couple." And Alaska doesn't want to let drunk people run wild, because when they do, things usually go south. You don't want to see a drunk outrun a polar bear. It never ends well. So far, we've learned you can't steal fryer grease in North Carolina, can't commit crimes in a bulletproof vest in New Jersey, and definitely can't body slam a bear in Alabama. Let's keep things going. Number 40. In 2002, Boulder, Colorado declared war on couches, specifically upholstered furniture left outdoors in the University Hill neighborhood. Why? College students. They'd drag porch couches to parties, then set fire to them. It happened a lot. While the city council debated the ban, a couch literally went up in flames nearby. Local legend and business major, obviously Scott McMaster, summed it up. "We're going to get drunk, we're gonna party, we're gonna do what we do, and you can't stop it." As usual, the Chads ruined it for everyone. After Boulder's war on couches, let's move east, where the furniture's safe, but your saliva isn't. Number 39. In Virginia, spit on a sidewalk, a floor, or a bus seat, and you get a Class 4 misdemeanor, $250 fine. You're now a criminal with bad aim. These laws came from the late 1800s and early 1900s. You know, when tuberculosis was a vibe. Second leading cause of death, 154,000 Americans coughing up lungs and then meeting the Reaper. And with everyone chewing tobacco, the streets basically looked like a spittoon convention. Lawmakers eventually said, ugh, gross. But spit on someone? Whole different ballgame. That's a Class 1 misdemeanor, up to $2,500 or a year in jail. Moral of the story, keep your saliva to yourself. No one wants to get waterboarded by your DNA. And if you like these map dives, make sure to hit that subscribe button. I've seen laws so weird they make Florida look reasonable. And don't worry, we'll get to Florida soon. Number 38. Residents of Arizona can't feed pigs garbage. Got a hungry pig? Don't feed it trash. Well, not without a permit at least. which has to be renewed every January. There's one loophole, though. You can feed your own pigs your own garbage. Farm to table to trash to farm to table. The circle of life. And there's logic here. Uncooked waste can spread disease, everything from foot and mouth to African swine fever. The law is supposed to prevent that. Feeding pigs garbage without a permit gets a fine of $2,500, probation, or even a few months of jail time. So protect pigs, and animals in general. Turns out, a whole lot of states have animal-related laws. Number 37. Honking at horses in Connecticut isn't just rude. It's basically playing jump scare with a 1,000-pound animal. One bad beep and it's chaos. Panicked horses, screaming riders, and drivers suddenly regretting their life choices. An equine apocalypse. Connecticut's got over 43,000 horses, more per capita than anywhere else in New England. That's what happens when you have old money. So, in 1985, the state introduced the law. There's no set fine, just depends on what the court feels like that day. These horses would not be happy at all with all the noise in this next state. Number 36. In South Dakota, farmers can legally use explosives and fireworks to protect their sunflower crops. Why? Because it's fun. Well, actually, it's because of the birds. Swarms of feathery thieves eat profits straight off the stalks. So the state said, fine, blow something up. So South Dakota farmers can literally wage war on birds. Sadly, there's still no law letting them do the same to mosquitoes. Unlike South Dakota and its birds, though, other states aren't so cavalier about animal safety. Number 35. Oklahoma has a serious stance against whaling. Which is great if it weren't for one tiny detail: no ocean. The Sooner State outlawed whaling despite being landlocked. It's separated from the nearest coastline by an entire state named Texas. The last time I checked, the Gulf of America, formerly the Gulf of Mexico, wasn't exactly teeming with humpbacks. Still, the law stands, a proud, landlocked declaration of marine conservation. Nothing says save the whales like doing it from 500 miles inland. A less theoretical approach to conservation can be found in one weird law in number 34. There's no snatching whales in California, or anything else with fins or flippers. That means sea otters, dolphins, porpoises, seals, and sea lions are all off limits. Honestly, how would you even pull that off? A seal can weigh over 200 pounds. Getting in some reps for the beach? And then what? Keep it in your bathtub? Still, California's law makes sense. The state's overflowing with marine life, and they're trying to keep it that way. The law doesn't just mean kidnapping a dolphin. You also can't harass, hunt, capture, or kill one, which makes it sound a lot less like an aquatic heist movie and a lot more like California doing its part for conservation. But conservation isn't just about animals. It comes in all shapes and sizes. Number 33. Residents in Vermont have a right to dry. Vermont believes in freedom and laundry. The state passed a right to dry law. No town can ban clotheslines. It's all part of Vermont's green, sustainable image, making it easier for residents to save energy instead of feeding the dryer. Want to air dry your jeans in January? Go for it. Just know that in 20-degree Fahrenheit weather, you're not getting dry clothes, just a denim popsicle. And hey, if you like the great outdoors, you might want to steer clear of this law as well. Number 32, no water ski jumping in Tennessee. Scrap your water ski jumping plans, which you were definitely about to do before this video. In Tennessee, installing, maintaining, or using a water ski jump on public waters, all illegal, unless you're part of a professional show. Do it anyway, and it's a Class C misdemeanor, up to 30 days in jail or a $50 fine. The reason's pretty simple. Water ski jumps mean chaos. They cause injuries, scare off boaters, and turn peaceful fishing trips into live stunt shows. Tennessee decided it would rather have calm waters than impromptu X Games. Not that it's the only state that takes its water-based activities seriously. Number 31. Maine runs on lobster. It's the country's biggest producer, over 100 million pounds a year. That's a lot of claws, butter, and bibs. So the state protects its golden crustaceans like treasure. There's a law that says you can't raise, lift, transfer, possess, or in any manner molest any lobster trap, unless you own it or you're a marine patrol officer. Keep your claws off someone else's traps. Break the rule and you'll be in hot water. Sorry, couldn't resist. Seriously though, you'll have to pay twice the replacement value of whatever you damaged. That free lobster could be your most expensive meal of your life. So far, we've learned you can't burn your couch in Colorado, spit on the sidewalk in Virginia, or go Captain Ahab in Oklahoma. And those aren't the strangest laws. Trust me. Ready to continue this regulations road trip? Number 30. It's illegal to pass off margarine as real butter in Iowa. I can't believe it's not butter. Well, you better believe it in Iowa. In Iowa, faking butter is a crime. Sell margarine as the real deal and you're in a butter trouble. In a state famous for 600-pound butter sculptures, that's basically blasphemy. The law dates back to when margarine makers started dyeing their product yellow. They hoped no one would notice. The dairy lobby wasn't having it. They fought back and won. In Iowa, butter isn't just food, it's a way of life. Not that Iowa is the only state that cares about its dairy. Number 29. Wisconsin cheese must be highly pleasing according to law. Wisconsin isn't called America's Dairyland for nothing. In 2023 alone, it pumped out 3.5 billion pounds of cheese, 25% of the country's total, a lactose intolerance nightmare. So naturally, the state's got cheese standards. Real ones. One law states that cheese needs to be fine, pleasing, and free from undesirable flavors and odors. Translation: no funky cheese allowed. Looking at you, France. There's no real punishment for breaking it. Taste is subjective, but it makes one thing clear. Wisconsin doesn't just make cheese, it's their whole identity. And just like Wisconsin is known for dairy, Michigan is known for being the home of Motor City, which might not be so gung-ho about cars after all. Because, number 28, thinking of buying a car on a Sunday in Michigan? Don't bother. Dealerships are closed by law. The ban started back in 1953. Michigan's auto industry was booming, workers were fried, and local bands in Detroit just drove sales outside city limits. So the state stepped in and expanded the rule, first to 8 counties, now 17. It doesn't cover all of Michigan, but it still parks a huge chunk of the car market every Sunday. Because in the Motor City, even engines need a day of rest. When you finally buy a car on a weekday, make sure you're a focused driver, or you could pay for it with this next law. Number 27. In 2024, Illinois had to pass a law banning video conferencing and live streaming while driving. Sounds obvious until you realize not every state's done it yet. And honestly, it's kind of depressing that lawmakers had to say out loud, "Don't join Zoom calls while doing 70 on the highway." The statute includes Zoom and Microsoft Teams. Next time your boss wants to perform a 1-hour monologue in the form of a video conference, tell him you can't. You're driving, and you'd be breaking the law. Instagram, Snapchat, and TikTok are also banned. So keep your hands on the wheel, your eyes on the road, and your influencer career on pause. Let's head to Georgia, where lawmakers don't have to worry about channeling their inner Fast and Furious, as long as they're on the clock. Number 26. Get stopped for speeding? Better flash your state assembly badge. Because in Georgia, lawmakers can't get ticketed while the assembly's in session. Weird, right? You'd think that's exactly when they're supposed to not be on the road. But there's logic buried in there, somewhere. The law was meant to keep police from delaying or interfering with legislators on their way to vote. Democracy, with a side of burned rubber and political privilege. After Georgia's lawmakers sped off scot-free, we're headed to a state that's less about horsepower and more about how you say things. Number 25, I've got to tread lightly on this one. Arkansas takes its name seriously. There's an actual law about how to pronounce it. There's no punishment if you mess up, but the state made it official. It's Arkansas, not Arkansas. The idea was to avoid any confusion with Kansas, and probably to stop outsiders from embarrassing themselves. It's not enforced, but it's still there. A little linguistic pride written right into the law books. Say it right, or risk getting the look. After a law that's all about saying things the right way, let's head to a state where it's more about doing the right thing, especially when animals are involved. Number 24. Tripping a horse in New Mexico is a misdemeanor, at least. And if the horse is injured, you've just committed your first fourth-degree felony. Enjoy 18 months in prison or a fine of up to $5,000, whichever the judge feels like. It was passed for animal welfare reasons. Back in the day, New Mexico hosted traditional Mexican rodeos where cowboys would rope a galloping horse's legs to bring it down. Think of it as rodeo meets UFC, but with way more casualty. Horses often ended up with broken legs, necks, or backs. Eventually, the state thought, maybe this isn't fun, and banned it. Other animal traditions are also being seen in a totally different light these days. Number 23. You can't host events with greased-up pigs in Minnesota. Until the early 1970s, greased pig contests were peak family entertainment. A bunch of adults and kids sprinting around a fairground chasing after a pig covered in oil. Chaos. Bacon-flavored chaos. It was a different time. A weird time, but different. The tradition started around 1921 and popped up at fairs and picnics across Minnesota. By the early 1970s, Minnesota outlaws greased pig contests. Probably when someone stopped mid-chase and asked, "Wait, why are we doing this?" Fun fact, the phrase "greased up like a pig" comes from this, the only part of it that aged well. I'm getting the sense that people in all states just can't leave animals alone, because number 22, Delaware has banned the selling, bartering, or even offering dog or cat fur. It's all a big no-no, even if it's just the stuff clinging to your couch. Get caught turning Fluffy's leftovers into a fashion statement, you're looking at a $2,500 fine, plus a 15-year ban on owning cats or dogs, which honestly is probably for the best. You'd just use them as supply chains anyway. It's all part of Delaware's broader anti-cruelty laws. Apparently, some people had to be told, no, you can't sell your pet's hairballs on Etsy. It feels like we need way too many laws to remind people to not be weird to animals. Laws like number 21. In Montana, putting an animal on railroad tracks isn't just cruel, it's a felony-level stupid move. Do it, and you're looking at up to 50 grand in fines, 5 years in prison, and the bill for whatever you wrecked. A train, cargo, passengers, all of it. No one's sure if this was ever a real problem or just a leftover from the Wild West days of train bandits and cow chaos. But with nearly twice as many cows as people, about 2 million to 1.1 million, Montana figured it was better to be safe than flattened. So, you can't fake butter, mispronounce a state name, or trip up a horse. America, protecting dairy, dignity, and dumb animal stunts, one weird law at a time. What law has surprised you so far? Let me know in the comments. Alright, let's continue this legal minefield. Number 20. Kansas might not be bursting with nightlife, but apparently some folks were getting their kicks by drive-by rabbit hunting, shooting bunnies from cars, motorboats, anything with an engine. Hunters were using vehicles to gain an advantage, which feels kind of unnecessary when your target is a 2-pound rabbit. It's not exactly Predator out there. So, to even the odds, and give the rabbits a fighting chance, Kansas passed a law banning it. Personally, they should just arm the rabbits. Make it interesting. Kansas isn't the only state with weird hunting laws. Number 19, you can't hunt via the internet in North Dakota. These days, you can do just about anything online. Order groceries, take college classes, stalk your ex's socials, even hunt. Seriously, online hunting lets people pay to remotely fire a real gun through a live camera feed. Basically, first-person shooter meets real life. North Dakota, being a state that actually respects the hunt, wasn't having it. Lawmakers called the whole thing unethical. Senator Dave Elke even said it was enough to make a billy goat puke, so they banned it. Violate the law and it's a Class C felony. 5 years in prison, a $10,000 fine, or both. Turns out click to kill isn't part of North Dakota's hunting tradition. Let's go from protecting animals to protecting humans. Number 18. Getting married soon? Congrats! But if you're in Nebraska, maybe schedule a doctor's visit before the honeymoon. The state technically forbids anyone with a venereal disease from getting married. Romantic, right? But don't worry. Nebraska doesn't actually test for STDs before issuing marriage licenses. The priest isn't holding a swab while you say I do, so the law just kind of sits there, awkwardly. There's no fine, no jail time, just kind of weird vibes. A few people have even tried to use the 1944 law to annul their marriages, but judges weren't buying it. probably because the law's wording is about as clear as a foggy bathroom mirror. Other laws about relationships kick in before a wedding even happens. Like number 17. In South Carolina, sweet talk can be a crime. Yeah, promising marriage to an unmarried woman just to get her attention? Well done, Casanova. You've earned yourself a misdemeanor. Fine or jail time, up to a year. Should've just gotten some flowers. The law's from 1905, and it shows. The woman's word alone didn't count. And if she was considered lewd or unchaste, forget it, case dismissed. Back then, unchaste probably meant showing an ankle in public. It all came from an era obsessed with purity. Premarital sex could tank a woman's social life. So, lawmakers stepped in to punish fake fiancés. Think The Bachelor, but if lying got you jail time. Speaking of old-timey laws that are still around, number 16. In Texas, believing in a higher power isn't just personal, it's practically on the job application. Anyone running for public office must acknowledge a supreme being, a subtle way of saying atheists don't apply. The Supreme Court banned religious tests for office way back in 1961. Even Texas's own Attorney General said, yeah, we can't actually enforce this. Still, the rule lingers, like a dusty Bible left open on a courthouse shelf. With only about 4% of Texans identifying as atheists, the message is loud and clear. In Texas politics, faith isn't just encouraged, it's practically a prerequisite. But it's hardly the only U.S. state law influenced by religion. Number 15. In Pennsylvania, fortune-telling and astrology is a big no-no. That doesn't mean your friend can't tell you why you're such a Scorpio. It's only illegal if you pay someone money for it. Tarot cards, illegal. Astrology readings, also illegal. Apparently, seeing the future is okay as long as it's free. The law's been kicking around since 1861. Back then, fortune-telling was scandalous and deeply unchristian. Spiritualist women in Philadelphia claimed to speak with the dead. Legislators responded by speaking with their lawyers. These days, it's barely enforced, but it's still there. In 2023, cops actually warned a Hanover shop owner that her readings could land her in jail. She clapped back. In 2024, she sued the state. All the psychics in the state saw it coming, though. It's kinda surprising no one has filed a suit to get this next law dismissed. Number 14, Indiana liquor stores can't sell cold soda or water. Indiana's liquor laws are inconvenient. Liquor stores can't sell cold soda or water, only warm. You can grab a chilled bottle of whiskey, but your Coke, room temperature. Perfect for those who like their mixers disappointing. The rule's a relic of the temperance era, when lawmakers didn't want liquor stores competing with soda fountains and general stores. The compromise? Flip it. Regular stores can't sell cold beer either. So next time you're sipping a lukewarm Coors Light or tepid Coke, raise a toast to Indiana's lawmakers. Moving to the opposite end of the spectrum, to places that encourage being absolutely wasted. Number 13, you can't pawn dentures in Las Vegas. For all of the glitz and glamour of Las Vegas, there's a lot of sad stories there. I can't imagine what happened to make the city ban pawning dentures, but here we are. Pawn shops are booming in Vegas. Gamblers will sell literally anything to keep hitting those slot machines, including their teeth. Well, the fake ones, at least. Since dentures count as medical devices, Las Vegas had to ban pawning them. Plus, the whole hygiene thing. Nothing kills the Vegas vibe faster than a used set of molars on the roulette table. After Vegas cracked down on secondhand smiles, let's head northwest, where the problem isn't fake teeth, but what people are doing with real bodily fluids. Number 12. This should go without saying, but don't hurl your pee out of a car window in Oregon. That's a Class A misdemeanor, with fines up to $6,250 or nearly a year in jail. What is wrong with people? And it's not just the throwing that's banned. You also can't park, get out, and leave the bottle by the road like some kind of roadside science experiment. It's gross, unsanitary, and frankly an insult to Mother Nature. So, keep it in your body, a toilet, or if nature calls mid-drive, behind a tree. Just not in a bottle. And definitely not sailing out the window at 60 miles an hour. There are some other weird laws about windows in general, apartment windows more specifically, in this next example. Number 11. In New York, you can't perform by climbing buildings or doing a puppet show from your window. Thinking of cosplaying as Spider-Man? Don't do it in New York City. Scaling buildings as a street act is illegal. So is performing puppet shows out your window. Really? Lawmakers never gave a clear reason, but in a city packed with skyscrapers and pedestrians, it probably came down to public safety. Nobody wants to get clocked by a falling marionette or a guy in spandex. Break the rule, and you're looking at a $25 fine or 30 days in jail. Personally, I'd take the fine, but I don't think that's how it works. And knowing New York, they'll probably charge extra for the performance. We've found out you can't hunt rabbits from your car, pawn your dentures for poker money, or toss a bottle of pee out the window, which really just sounds like common sense. We've hit our top 10, and the laws just keep getting weirder from here. Trust me. Number 10. In New Hampshire, you can fish, swim, or stroll the beach at night, but don't even think about grabbing seaweed. That's illegal. The law dates back to the 1700s when farmers used seaweed as fertilizer. They didn't appreciate midnight thieves hauling it off by the cartload. It's technically still a violation, complete with a fine, but no one seems to know how much. In 2015, students crowned it as the state's dumbest law. Lawmakers tried to repeal it twice, but environmentalists stepped in. With only 18 miles of coastline, they warned, lifting the ban could leave New Hampshire's beaches barer than a skinny dipper. Maybe a dispute over seaweed collecting led to this next law, though. Number 9. You can't bite someone's limbs off in Rhode Island. Did Rhode Island have a zombie scare I missed? There's an actual law making it illegal to bite off someone's limb. The punishment anywhere from 1 to 20 years in prison, which honestly feels about right for turning someone into a snack. Sure, removing body parts is illegal everywhere, I hope, but Rhode Island's law gets oddly specific. It also bans putting out an eye and slitting a nose, ear, or lip. It reads less like legislation and more like a medieval torture manual. Guess Rhode Island used to be wilder than it is today, in a horrific, unimaginable way. But so are most places. Number 8. Have you been in a duel lately? Well, Street Fighter doesn't count. If the answer is yes, I've got some bad news. You can't hold political or public office or even work as a lawyer in Kentucky. Since 1891, Kentucky public officials have had to swear they've never engaged in dueling. The last known duel? 1867. Guess old habits die hard. Back then, politics in Kentucky was less spirited debate and more armed standoff. Lawmakers carried guns into the Capitol. And in 1895, things escalated. Governor William Gebel shot and killed his rival John Sanford right after being accused of corruption and having gonorrhea. Sick burn. Literally. So, to keep politics from turning into a shootout, Kentucky introduced the anti-dueling oath. Because who hasn't fantasized about facing off with Karen from HR at 10 paces during lunch break? Other officials with their own oaths haven't exactly been killing it in terms of upholding them, which is why, number 7. In Hawaii, it's officially illegal for police officers to have sex with prostitutes, even while undercover. Wildly enough, until 2014, that was totally allowed. Before the ban, officers could literally sleep with their targets in the name of law enforcement. Unsurprisingly, that raised a few ethical red flags. The police pushed back, saying criminals could expose undercover cops by demanding they prove it. Lawmakers weren't impressed. The Hawaii Senate called the loophole gross and shut it down. And just like that, a lot of officers lost their most awkward work perk. They're lucky legislators didn't take a leaf out of Missouri's book. Number 6. In Missouri, if a bull or ram escapes and starts living its best feral life, you can legally castrate it. Put the scissors down. You have to wait 3 days. Yes, there's a cooling off period for revenge farming. The law says the animal must be over a year old, and at least 3 residents have to notify the owner first. Then it can be done in the usual way, which sounds both vague and deeply unsettling. And you can't harm the animal, which sounds difficult when you're literally chopping bits off. The point? Make it less aggressive and stop it from spreading its genes across Missouri. The only thing scarier than a loose bull is a romantically motivated one. In this next state, locals aren't worried about livestock, but legendary creatures. Number 5. Skamania County in Washington is well known for one thing: the home of camera-shy celeb, Bigfoot. On April 1st, 1969, county officials passed a law banning anyone from harming or killing a Sasquatch. Break it, and you could face up to a $1,000 fine or a year in jail. Everyone assumed it was an April Fool's prank. Then the local paper had to clarify 3 times that no, the county was dead serious. The idea wasn't just to save a mythical ape, it was to save people. Armed hunters were tramping through the woods hoping to bag Bigfoot. Officials were worried someone would accidentally bag a hiker instead, so the law became less about monsters and more about morons. Not that you need a gun to kill someone. Number 4, cannibalism is complicated. A phrase I never thought I'd say. You wouldn't think it would need its own law. In most places, it's technically allowed in extreme survival cases. Think Donner Party, not dinner party. But Idaho stands alone as the only state to ban it outright. You can thank the satanic panic of the 80s and 90s for that one, back when moral crusaders were convinced teenagers were about to turn into blood-drinking devil worshippers. In reality, they were just kids in butterfly clips and Stone Cold Steve Austin shirts. So Idaho outlawed ritualistic cannibalism to stop a menace that never existed. To this day, there's never been a single recorded case of cannibalism there, which is great news for Idaho and for anyone attending a potluck. Now you know you can't steal seaweed at night, shoot your political rivals, or hunt Bigfoot, and maybe even Carl. We've hit the top 3 weird laws, and things are only getting stranger from here. Number 3, do you like to ingest blood and other bodily fluids, especially as part of a ritual? No? Good. In Louisiana, it's a felony. Anyone caught consuming blood or other bodily fluids can face up to 25 years in prison or a $25,000 fine. Even as part of a ritual, that's a long sentence for playing vampire. Lawmakers said it was about public health. Drinking blood is a great way to collect diseases, but the ritual bit? That's thanks to voodoo. But voodoo doesn't involve blood drinking at all. The religion just spooked Louisiana's white Christian majority. Too many candles, drums, and mystery for their liking. So they panicked, wrote a law, and banned something that wasn't even happening. Classic overreaction. But a much more tragic history explains the next one. Number 2, possessing or using a weapon of mass destruction in Utah is a first-degree felony, which, fair, pretty reasonable stance, but there's a dark backstory there. Back when Nevada was testing nukes, the fallout didn't stay hanging in the one spot. It drifted straight into Utah. Towns like St. George and Cedar City got showered in radiation and cancers skyrocketed. Officials called the area a low-use segment of the population. Government talk for people we can afford to poison. And here it is, the weirdest law. And of course, it comes from Florida. Number 1. Bar and restaurant owners in Florida can't host any kind of dwarf tossing contest. Which, yeah, let's just call it what it was. A terrible idea that somehow caught on. Back in the 1980s, this was apparently peak Florida nightlife. Drunk people literally throwing little people for entertainment. The little people of America eventually showed up like, what the actual hell, Florida? Injuries piled up, and lawmakers finally banned it in 1989. The strangest part? Some folks still want to overturn the ban. But honestly, it's Florida. That's not strange. It's practically on brand. So next time you're road tripping through the US, don't hunt a Sasquatch, don't steal kitchen grease, and definitely don't turn bar night into a human shot put. Thanks for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you want to see more videos like this, then please consider subscribing and turn on notifications. Really does make a difference. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time on MatPack.